Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Charles Sabans. I want to welcome you guys to another episode of the DREAMERSPRO show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, and we give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. And man, we are going to be revisiting this topic again. But before we get into it, please make sure you like the video and sub to the channel. So, as you guys know, Stephen A. Smith used to be debate partners with Max Kellerman on ESPN First Take. They were partners for, I believe, 5 years after Skip Bayless had departed the show. And I think after 2 years, Stephen A. Smith said that he realized that he no longer wanted Max Kellerman to be his debate partner. And then ultimately, Max was let go from the show. And he ended up having his own show, This Just In, and he was doing ESPN radio in the morning. You had that there. And then ultimately, Max Kellerman was part of the cord cutting that took place at ESPN. And ultimately, he was let go of. And then Stephen A. Smith went on this kind of tour, and he was being asked about Max Kellerman, and he was just basically trashing him from one stop to the next. And it was just crazy, and different people were getting involved and saying, "Why are you saying this?" All of these different things, right? Stephen A. Smith wasn't holding back there. So what happened yesterday? A show was published from the Chris Carter's podcast called Fully Loaded. And it was about a 2.5 hour sit down that he had. And they were talking about Skip Bayless. They talked about the business. They talked about a whole bunch of things. But at a particular point, Chris Carter decided to ask Stephen A. Smith, why didn't things work out with you and Max Kellerman? Now, here's what shocked me initially. In the beginning, he actually ended up saying it was Max Kellerman's fault that it didn't work out. And then later on, he said it was his fault. And then he went on to explain why he felt like they just were not a good pairing. And, you know, he wished Max Kellerman the best and all of that. So those are the comments that we want to get into today. But before we even get into what Stephen A. Smith had to say, today's video is brought to you by our sponsor, Game Time. With only 4 months left in 2024, I'm really looking forward to making memories with my family and attending different games and concerts and theater shows this year. And so when it comes time to finding the most affordable tickets for these shows and events, I love using Game Time. Game Time is one of the most reliable marketplaces for last-minute tickets to the most popular events in sports, music, and theater in more than 60 cities across the United States and Canada. Game Time already analyzes thousands of tickets for all of your favorite events near your location and finds you the best possible deal so you don't have to. For example, I'm looking forward to this upcoming concert at Madison Square Garden of one of my favorite composers, Hans Zimmer. Here, I can select the all-in price to see the total ticket price up front, no hidden fees. And now I can sort through the best possible deals I can find. I can choose the cheapest deals, the great deal, or the amazing deal. Once you select the ticket you want, you can use their panoramic seat view to ensure you know exactly what you're getting before you buy. And if you're like me and always make plans at the last minute, you can grab tickets up to 90 minutes after the event has started. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Again, create an account and use redeem code CLNS for $20 off. And remember, whenever you support this sponsor, you're supporting this channel. Thank you. So what we want to do now is want to play exactly what Stephen A. Smith had to say to Chris Carter yesterday in response to his question about Max Kellerman, and then want to come back and really get into the show. Take a listen to these gentlemen here.
Max Kellerman.
Yeah.
What was the rub there? Why wasn't that show as successful as other partners that you've had in that spot?
Lack of chemistry. Believe it or not, it was more his fault than mine. I've seen his friend Marcellus Wiley bring up stuff. Marcellus Wiley knows one side. He certainly never spoke to me about it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Never called, never asked, or anything like that. And I'm not hating on him for it because that's his man. Him and Max are very, very tight. But if you want to talk about me, I'm not hard to find. Ask me.
Well, we've had hundreds of conversations.
That's
and
right.
Marcellus had hundreds of conversations.
How about that? How about that?
Yes.
Yeah,
and is one of the many brothers and sisters that this dude has helped out at ESPN. Because, listen, when you interview at ESPN, It might be a phone interview, video interview. It might be in person. But when you leave, guess what they do?
Yeah.
Stephen A. Bro, what you think? Hey, you know him? You know her?
Yeah.
That
all the time. But I will say this. You know, I might disagree with what he says, but there have been times when I think that Marcellus has been more than fair, and he's entitled to his opinion. I'm certainly not here to criticize him. I only bring him up because when I think about Max Kellerman, I think about the narrative that he's helped put out there. And I'm like, talk to me, and all you have to do, because I might, there's certain things I may not say publicly, but I'd have told Marcellus, because I know that's his boy.
Right.
You know, but it was a chemistry issue, and I think that people need to understand it was mostly my fault. I'm the leader. I'm the executive producer of the show. I'm the star of the show. I wasn't looking at Max Kellerman and saying it was his fault that the show failed. I'm talking about us. How I vibe with all the people that I vibe for. The proof is in the pudding. Look at how I vibed with the people that have been there since he's been gone. Look at how I vibed with Skip Bayless as a debate partner before he arrived. I think that Max Kellerman is somebody that I'm rooting for to return to this business. He's somebody that is nothing short of brilliant, like genius level, brilliant. Absolutely true. Here's the issue for a debate show. Because you are such a genius and you are so brilliant, and you have the ability to articulate yourself the way that he does, at some point in time, you're talking and you're talking and you're talking, and you're talking above the audience to the point where they find themselves asking, what did you just say? Now, I might get it because I know you. And I know where you're going.
Right.
And I know how you feel because I'm working with you every day.
Right. And you dabble in a lot of different worlds.
I do.
But
I know
you're more talking about your audience, what's going to be hot, what's going to keep building the show.
I'm on the air. When I'm on the air, Sean, Chris knows this. When I'm on the air, watch me. At times they catch me, and I don't mean for it to be caught. Like a director shouldn't have me on camera. I'm talking, but then when I'm not talking, I'm directing the show. This person, that person, wrap this up, go here, go there, keep this going. But I'm doing all of these things in the midst of the show because I know television. And so because of that, I'm watching an audience look at us for 5 years. In the last 3.5 years minimum, they were asking, what's up with this? and it wasn't resonating. They were watching, but it was almost like they were watching because that was a default position. And they were losing interest in my estimation. The numbers didn't show it, but the Pulse did. In terms of our numbers digitally, in terms of me being at games and seeing the reactions that we were getting off of the things that we said, seeing the storylines that were being peeled from content that we had discussed on the show. And 99% of it was about me. About 1% of it was about us. That's not what I want. I want somebody that's going to come at it in a way where the impact is palpable enough, where it's comparable enough. And if you don't have that, then you don't have a partnership. You might have a show, but you don't have a partnership. People that are rising together. And I felt the staleness. It's our job when we're doing television to get a sense of the pulse of the audience.
Yes.
And I got the sense that the audience was losing interest. And so I knew it was me, but I said, it's us because it's a debate show. I can't debate myself, and you got to be willing to step out there, take a position, et cetera, et cetera. Not to say that he wasn't at times, because clearly he was. But Skip and I had set a standard. And so the audience had an expectation, fair or unfair, that he was going to live up to that standard that Skip had set. So it really wasn't about Stephen A. It was about the Skip element and comparing that to Skip, looking for him to create that kind of fervor. And when it didn't happen, all of a sudden you felt a staleness. And I wasn't going to sit idly by and just let it continue to feel that way. I said, we got to do something. So we are not an ideal pair, what y'all want to do. And that's how that happened. And so I root for him, you know. I mean, because obviously, listen, I got fired in 2009. That brother got morning radio, and he got an afternoon show, okay? And then obviously they had to make whatever decisions they had to make with layoffs and all of this other stuff. But this dude has been in the business working for HBO. He's worked for ESPN. He's worked for Fox. I have nothing but respect for him. He's a decent, really good dude at his core, and I'll never root against him. And so I just know that if he were covering boxing and interviewed me or vice versa, we could do that. If we were doing Sports Center, we could do that. My issue was he and I together strictly for a debate show.
Yeah.
There's certain people, there's certain couples, pairs that just don't work as a debate team. And that's all I was trying to say.
Give me one thing about Shannon, because I know I was happy when you got Shannon, but I know Shannon a lot better than you do.
So you heard what they had to say. Now here's what's interesting. In the midst of all of that, he actually responded to some of the things that friend of the show, Marcellus Wiley, was saying. And we're going to send him the show after this to get his take on it. I'm sure he's going to respond to it. So y'all definitely go check out what Marcellus is going to say about it, because I'm sure he's going to have a lot of interesting things to say about it. I'm 100% sure of that. But anyway, let's get into what Stephen A. Smith said. He said that essentially, he said him making his decision had nothing to do with the numbers, because he said that the numbers weren't reflecting his sentiment. Instead, he was like, it was when he was going out and kind of getting the temperature of what people thought about the show, some of the things that Max Kellerman was saying, some of the things that they were making headlines for. Like, for instance, I think when Max Kellerman said he would pick, I think Andre Iguodala over Stephen Curry, or he would pick Kawhi Leonard over Kobe Bryant, or the Tom Brady cliff theory and all of that. I guess it was something that didn't sit well with Stephen A. Smith. I guess it was something that he didn't like the direction that the show was going in, and he wanted to change, right? Now, if you also pay attention to his comments, initially he said it was Max Kellerman's fault. The interesting thing is Stephen A. Smith has given a range of views on this thing with Max. At one point, he said Max essentially wasn't qualified to be on the set with him. Then in other points, he said that Max was smart as hell, and he was very articulate. He knew his stuff. So then you get these two different views, because if he wasn't good enough to be on the show with you, then why was he on the show to begin with, right? So there's that question mark out there. Secondly, I think the thing that turned off a lot of people, including Marcellus Wiley, was the things he was saying about Max. Even after he was unemployed, even after he didn't have a job, he was saying things that would not help Max Kellerman's position, because Stephen A. Smith had said himself. He said that he's one of the biggest voices, if not the biggest voice in sports media. So if Stephen A. Smith is not messing with someone, then it's going to cause people to take a second look and be like, well, if he's not messing with someone, this person, then maybe we need to kind of steer clear. These are things he has said. Right? These are not my words. These are his words. So people are like, man, the guy is already out of a job. Like, why are you now piling on top? Right? Why are you piling on top? In terms of, he said he wasn't really reaching people or whatever. I don't know. Now, to be fair to Stephen A. Smith, ever since Max Kellerman's departure and the new reshuffle on ESPN, it has taken off and gone to a completely different stratosphere. With the addition of Shannon Sharp, he brought in people at one point like JJ Redick and others. You got to hand it to him. He found a way to not only keep that show number one, but then to continue to grow it. So we can't take that away from him, because he does that obviously very well. Obviously, he knows what he does. He knows how to do the show. I don't know if we played it in this soundbite but at a different point in that show, he was talking about how he directs the show and all of that, even while the show was on. So no one is taking that away from him. He does it at a very high level, and he deserves every penny that he makes, in my personal view. If he works for it and he's producing the results, more power to him, right? More power to him. I think, however, what people didn't like was those additional shots that he took at Max Kellerman. A lot of people just didn't like that, but these are my thoughts on it. So what I want to know from you guys, what do you think about Stephen A. Smith's comments about Max Kellerman? Were they inbounds or out of bounds? Whatever you guys think, please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section, and we catch you guys on the next episode. Peace.